Hello all, welcome to study 29 of the Solving Studies to Improve Chess Calculation series. This study is from Oscar Jorge Carlssen. He was born in Uruguay, Montevideo, and then with 18 years old he settled in Buenos Aires, Argentina, where he made his career as an industrial engineer. And when he was around 30 years old, he started to compose some chess studies, so also an interesting person in the world of chess composing. Uh, as always, if you haven't watched the video before starting to solve, then you'll have the countdown, and I see you after with the solution. And here we are for the solution. And as always, we start by the only first good move, which is C7 exclamation mark. Of course, white is with far less material than black, so we can't lose any move, so we need to be precise every time. Things like, for example, catching the knight, I think this is very obvious. Now we are controlling rook c1, but a simple rook b6 attacking the pawn with the pawn advance. Well, we check the king, and next move we are going to take the pawn, not enough. And moves like trying to kind of block the c file, well, they are not enough because we are going to see this team in a while. First, we protect our knight. Then, if the pawn advances, we are going knight a4. And the idea is we are going to threat to fork and control the promotion square. If white promotes, well, we simply fork, and any other way we are going to control it. Let's see, for example, if the bishop takes the knight, well, it's a check. When the king moves away, I simply take the knight. And what else can black do here? Let's see, for example, if it promotes, for example, to a knight, a different option. So to stop the knight from forking, of course. This is all very cool, but of course we are going to play rook c1, pinning the bishop. Now, how can the king protect? Well, going to b3 maybe. Then we check, and the king takes the knight. But in the end, we are already one rook ahead, and it's a win for black for sure. So, coming back a bit for the beginning again, if we go, like, for example, with bishop f5, kind of supporting the promotion of the pawn too soon, well, this doesn't work also. We simply threat the discover check. Now, if the pawn, of course, if here the pawn advance, I just remove the knight with the check and take the pawn. So let's stop that with protecting the pawn first. But now we just bring the other knight. The idea here is we are threatening check and triple fork. But of course, the pawn advance, we simply remove the knight, the king moves, and again, we are playing with an advantage. If the king takes, we take, and it's game over. So I think it's far easy to find that c7 is the really hard one. But now black to play, and he needs to control the pawn. And of course, things like going rook a8 to control the promotion is not enough, because we now, yes, we are going to bring the bishop to support the promotion of the pawn. So things like, for example, the bringing the knight is not on time because we simply promote. And now two knights against bishop, it's not even close of a win. So white achieves the aim of drawing. What else can black do here? Maybe try the same trick if the promotion happens, to play knight b6 and fork both. Yes, but just black forgot that we also have this threat of checking and taking the rook, and now it's white winning. So no chances. Let's come to the beginning again. So, not being able to protect the promotion with the rook, we need to come up with the same idea we saw before, if you remember. Knight a4, with the idea, if we get promoted, then we can fork it and win the queen again. So now white is forced to play without allowing knight b6, and the only move possible is to, of course, bring the bishop with a check so it doesn't falls to the rook. Of course, if we don't wait for that, then simply black can take the bishop and then control the pawn. Of course, this is not what we are intending. So first we deliver the check. The knight protects. This is the best defense for black. Other just make it simple to guarantee the promotion. So here we are attacking the knight. Of course, if black wants to take the pawn, needs to move the rook to c1. I don't see other possible way over here. like for example going knight c3 check is not enough, because now we approach the king, and if black goes with knight a4 we keep threatening to promote. Of course here we need to be careful, we don't want to play the mistake of going king b8, because we are going to fall into a different fork, and then the knight sacrifice for the pawn, and we are going to play rook and knight against bishop. So here we just come back, and now we are again threatening to promote the pawn, and so we can't progress over here. So here, after attacking the knight, the best idea is to bring the rook to help control the promotion. So now it sounds hard for white to control it. What is the only move we have here for white to keep fighting for a draw? Of course, there's only one. It's a sacrifice, bishop c6. Why this is a sacrifice? Well, we are going to see it very fast. We deliver a check, so now the king needs to go to a6. Of course, taking the knight is a dumb move, because we are going to take the bishop and then we take the pawn, and it's an easy win for black. So only way to keep fighting is to go to a6, and now black takes the bishop, of course, now threatened to take the pawn. Of course, if the rook takes the pawn, the king takes the rook, then two knights are unable to checkmate. If you don't know that, now you know. So black to move over here. Well, black can try to force white into a mistake, like for example check, and if the king goes to the bad square of, let's see that, to the bad square of rook a8, then we are going to the other side. The idea is the promotion is not possible because I will have a fork, and from here the king may try to come back, so the promotion is not at risk, like for example going b7. But now we just play knight b6, protected by our king, by our rook, of course, and there's no way white is going to achieve a promotion. We simply sacrifice a knight, and then we are going to mate with the other pieces, if not just with the rook. So here white is forced to go to a7, and so we are threatening again to promote, forcing black to come back, and then the king comes back again, and there is kind of no progression. But this is not over. Black also has some interesting tries over here, and the first one is to allow white, the first and the one we are going to see until the end, is to allow white to promote the pawn to a queen. How? First, we protect the rook, of course, we don't want to lose the rook, and then white promotes to a queen. Of course, we can't take the queen with the rook and having the king to take our rook back, because this is just another draw. And so it's black to play again. And now we are going to maneuver the knight to get a better position. So first we deliver a check, knight c5 check. Here the king has not many moves. Okay, we need to be careful. The king keeps protecting the queen, of course. This is the only move. Now we use the other knight to deliver another check. So the king needs to move away from the queen. Now it's the only moment possible. And of course now we are in a difficult situation, because even if black is dominating, it can't really take the queen, because it will be a stalemate. If you notice, it can't go here because the rook is controlling, the knights are controlling the other two, and it's white to move, so it's a stalemate, it's a draw by stalemate. So the best try for black is to go to the other side, so like passing the move to white. Of course, if you notice now, the king can't move, because if it moves then we can fork it. Like for example, if it goes to a8, then we can fork it and grab the queen, winning the game. So the queen is basically the only piece that can move, and things like going to this check, it's just a mistake. Can you see why? Well, we just move the king away, and there are no more checks. And in the next move, I am threatening to checkmate. How can white get out of this? It can't. So it will be a loss. So, as you can see, white really needs to play precise moves until the end. And the only good move over here is to deliver this check, because there is no checkmate if you are in check. So first, black needs to move, and of course, just moving the king away. This is one of the best because it's protected from checks from this side, and here the knight is also protecting the check. So now it's white to play. There are many ways to keep the draw alive, so not just one. We can go, for example, um, queen c4. Let's see, for example, this one. But I like one of the smartest one. Not easy to see, but just finish the study. It's to play queen h8, an interesting move, because now, of course, we are pinning the rook. If the rook takes the queen, it's a draw, because again, we are unable to check the king, and the king is to play, and there is no square, so it's a stalemate. So in the end, it was longer than probably you have expected. These defensive moves normally are not that easy to find alone, but still, it's an interesting way to come from here to here. So I hope you have enjoyed, and I see you as always in other studies. Bye bye.